my time growing up, I would hear the saying, it's as easy as flying a kite. I don't know where that saying comes from, but the truth is there is nothing easy about flying a kite. If the wind isn't blowing at a certain level, it's next to impossible. Once the kite is in the air, it's often difficult to control. And then once the kite is soaring, you risk the string breaking, the kite loosed and disappeared. Not to mention, depending on how the wind blows or buffets the kite, you always risk that crash. It can be said that flying a kite is a whole lot like what mothering is about. And actually the image of flying a kite might gather well for each of us something of the themes of the Feast of the Ascension. And this that we celebrate so wholeheartedly, this thing called Mother's Day. Mothers spend a lifetime trying to get their children off the ground. You moms, you run breathlessly with them, and sometimes you watch with sadness as they spiral down and crash. You add a longer tail, they hit the rooftop. You pick them up out of the spout, then they get stuck in a tree. You patch and you comfort, you adjust and you teach. You assure them. And along the way you keep reminding yourself that someday they will fly. Finally you see them lifted by the wind and they are airborne. But they need more string. And so you keep letting out the string to give them more and more room to soar, more and more room to fly. There's always that challenge, isn't there? But how tight to keep that string, or how loose to keep it between you and your child. And with each twist of that ball of twine, there's perhaps a tinge of sadness. A tinge of sadness that the kite becomes more and more distant. It recedes more and more, farther and farther away. And sometimes it seems you can barely see it anymore. And sometimes it's not long before that beautiful creature snaps the lifeline that bound you together with your child, and they soar free. I saw it in a mom's eyes just this past weekend as she clutched her husband tight and watched her son walk down the aisle of a wedding over the CNC. And I saw it the week before in the eyes of a mom who watched her daughter give birth. And I will see it in this very chapel in the quad right next to us here. As this very week, moms watch their sons and daughters walk down this aisle and those aisles for graduation and on into the rest of their lives. You end up left with a string, really. Things slip away so quickly. They become so far away sometimes. But you've got memories. You've got the sure knowledge that you're doing the right thing. and you have an understanding of the heart of God. On today's Feast of the Ascension, we see how that is exactly how Jesus has loved us, his own, in this world. For the disciples, his own, whom he loved with all his mind, heart, soul, and body, for them to fulfill their calling, Jesus had to let them go. He had to return to the Father so that they could do their work now. Certainly that was painful for the disciples. But I would also imagine that there was something in this goodbye that was painful for Jesus as well. But we are reminded today of the importance of that letting go in love, of that sort of creative absence, so that others, so that those we love can soar and live out their calling now in this world. Jesus trained his disciples. He gave them everything he could. Then he sent them out. Go, he says. Go. It's time for you to go. And Jesus soars out ahead of them so that we too might soar. This feast is less about what will happen to us after death than it is about how we are meant and empowered to rise and to love each other in these very lives we are living on this earth. That's why Jesus can be so serene, as we hear it in Luke's account, when he leads them, quote, as far as Bethany and is taken up into heaven. Jesus knows the joy of seeing the potential in his own, his disciples whom he loved, to soar now. So the letting go is okay. The surrender is necessary. The disciple, the daughter, the son, is meant to soar. To you who are moms here this morning, perhaps you're in the phase right now of assembling your kids before you ever even try to get them airborne. Or perhaps you have children of that age now, when you keep trying to add more tail so that they don't fly too rapidly. Maybe your children have already crashed. One of them maybe even has crashed. And so you're trying desperately to extricate them from the circumstances of their life and help put them back together again. Or maybe right now for you, your kids are soaring higher and higher and getting harder and harder to see. Or perhaps for whatever reason, you are left here this morning like a piece of string with no kite on the other end. For certainly, your letting go shows us something at the heart of God. For certainly, this is how God loves us. You and I, carry forth into the world the very best we have received from Jesus. And though we might be separated physically from Him now, like from so many of our own moms now, we are forever really connected. We carry Him in us now, and we carry our moms in us now. Nope, it's not an easy thing to fly a kite. It's not very easy at all. But it can be thrilling. It can be absolutely thrilling, can't it? When you're holding that kite up in the air, it's almost like you are there with it, soaring yourself, flying. And your imagination kicks into high gear, and the stresses of the world just seem to fade behind you. And there is a particular joy, no matter how old you are, to fly a kite on a windy spring day like this one this morning. It's a great feeling to say to someone you love very much, and to say it with love, go. Go now. It's time. It's time to fly. It's a great feeling when you get to help someone, even your own, to soar.